A festival like this is a beautiful indication of the kind of thing that I truly believe in, and I think makes our society more whole and more pure.
We do not take it for granted that Boulder was chosen as the first North American satellite festival. It's a huge honor we will not forget, and we are enriched because of it. We are indebted to both the local and international people that came together to make that happen, and we hope it's a tradition that continues for decades to come.
Literary festivals like this one build up an environment and an ecosystem to nurture readers and to promote the business of books. They provide an invaluable forum for writers to connect with other creative people.
We sit there peering into those electronic grids in front of our eyes, and it only increases the desire to see the real thing in the flesh. To actually hear an author speak firsthand, to read from their work, to hear the tones of their voice modulate as they read their most treasured passages of prose.
For us, it's special. This was our mothership, and it continues to be. The other editions that we have across the United States are smaller versions, different programming, but smaller versions.
Welcome back, everyone, to the first session of the fourth day of JLF Colorado. On behalf of JLF Colorado, Festival co-directors Namita Gokali and William Dalrymple, Teamwork Arts, Boulder Public Library, and the City of Boulder, we welcome you to this session, Speaking Out Loud, Empowering Social Conscience, Suzi Q. Smith in conversation with Franklin Cruz. Well-known Colorado writers Suzi Q. Smith and Franklin Cruz move us with their words, and we'll consider the ways in which poetic expression galvanizes action towards social justice and the understanding of each other's experience. We will begin the session with readings from Franklin and Suzi. Franklin Cruz is a queer Latin poet born in Idaho, raised in Texas, and polished in Denver. Born from an immigrant family, he works at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, is an MC and a dancer. A TEDx Mile High performer, he has taught and performed in the Southwest, Peru, Puerto Rico, for universities and environmental leadership camps, the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, and the Denver Art Museum, of immigration, culture, nature, and more. Franklin always aims to address intersectional liberation, confronting our complicity to privilege and oppression, and the critical lesson of specificity over simplicity. Please, with me, warmly welcome Franklin Cruz. Over to you, Franklin.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. My name is Franklin Cruz, pronouns él, ella, him, they. And I'm coming from Denver, just as Jesse said. I'm excited to be a co-feature with my friend Suzi Q. Smith, who we'll bring in a little bit later. I have just a couple short poems to share with y'all today, so let's go ahead. I'm laughing today. On days I wouldn't. No sunlight ceremony, just a celebration inside my gut. I hear instincts chisme. Can't help but cackle hard. No puedo más que reírme libremente. My nephew says I laugh like someone paid me to. A vent of praise, erupción de manifestación. It's recognizably transactional. My laughter is a bet against the odds. To live so freely, it feels like I left my bones behind. Being brown and queer and out in public, not afraid to show all my teeth. The back of my throat as all the air dances past my mouth into a cipher, a song, some laboratory of joy that illuminates everyone's day. Something you want to stop, or sometimes you want to stop because others are laughing or staring. The ones uncomfortable with self-love like this, all because they don't understand joy this free. They don't believe it can be theirs too. They call it yours, bigger than them. A gift they didn't get, to be envied, desired, a chasing, or a reminder that laughter is almost always an accident, alive and filling the space by circumstance and context. It chooses the person because of their willingness to live a life luxurious in reason to laugh. And what a blessing to be a shy kid who wanted to die at one point and now able to fill a room with my body's ritual for liberty from the lies we believe, even if we told it to ourselves, from the need to always know, avoid risk, seek glory. Laughter does none of those. It's mainly a reaction, part of the process of being human, one caught in the moment, laughing so loudly, you let go, finally, free. Whoa. Yeah, so I have a very, very strong feeling. Suzi and I had chatted and we just wanted to really talk about our poems tonight. I'm probably gonna throw the tech team for a loop, but I really want to go with this feeling and I really want to honor it. So I'm actually gonna invite Suzi to the stage. Mind you, friends, we just kind of bogarted the show. This is my lovely friend Suzi, who's actually, most folks don't know, a mentor of mine. I legitimately would not be part of the person who I am today had it not been for this individual right here, a TEDx Mile High performer and speaker. Oh wait, no, Suzi, you haven't done that. But she has curated at the Untitled the Art Museum. She's posted and publicated everywhere. She has been on Slam Team. She has been on the cover of Westward. She has taught all over the world. Suzi, let's talk about poems. What did you feel, Suzi?
Hello, Franklin. I felt joy, and thank you very much for bringing me in. I'm so happy to see your face. Thank you for having me here at JLF. I'm glad that I could make it this evening, and I'm happy to be in this comfort of poems and joy with you. Thank you for that poem, Franklin. I would love to ask you questions about that. I love that you started today. I'm laughing today so that we know where you are. I'm wondering why do you think that sometimes it feels like people I feel like there's like a joy shaming. I think particularly in a year like this one, when there are so many challenges, right? Why is joy so radical? Why is joy, why does it challenge people so to see you joyful?
I think for me, one of the lines that I wrote that like answers it to very much like that is, my laughter is a bet against the odds. To live so freely, it feels like I left my bones behind, you know? And then we like develop into my identity after that about like being brown and queer, but especially for folks who, we know the story of struggle, we know the story of like having to dig ourselves up, to be able to say like my laughter is a bet against the odds. I remember writing that and then just feeling super empowered and knowing that like every day I choose joy, like it's choosing myself. And there's a line in there that's it's in Spanish, erupción de manifestación. It's an eruption of manifestation, right? Where I'm literally becoming myself when I choose my own joy, because that's when people get to see the most me. And I think like you and I know each other very well, but for most folks who don't know me, if you see me dancing in public, it is one of my most happiest and freeing moments. And that to me is like, I'm smiling, I'm in my pure joy, and you know, I get to do that.
I'm glad that you brought up dancing, because I think anytime that I picture you dancing, because that is how I see you most commonly, right? Reading poems and dancing, and this is what we do. frequently in each other's company. This is how we are. Right? And also I feel like there was a lot of movement in this poem, right? There's a lot of beautiful sound in this poem as well, right? When I think about it, there's one the part where there cant and cackle. I love that you use the word cackle there, right? It works so beautifully. And I think about the movement, and then not afraid to show all my teeth. I love, love, love that line. I also am wondering, like, about this poem, there's a part where you said the lies that we believed, right? About like that we were supposed to be in all of this sorrow and all of this tragedy, right? And there's so much that we inherit of that, and so much of that narrative that we carry. How did you come to recognize that as a lie? And how did you come to like a space where you went from not someone who was able to access or own your joy to someone that realized that it was something you could manufacture?
First thought that comes off of the top of my head is because I learned how to access like my grief and my sadness and my depression. And then I always tell people, if you can understand those deeper parts of your humanity and not run from them, that shadow, it's such an abundance in the light. You know, because if I look at it this way, like here's true center, true neutral and everything like that, and I only push people towards the positive, that's this distance. But if I can also push people towards outside of neutral, that like quote unquote negative, but like that depression, that grief, awesome. Because then by the time I push into that positive, that's a much deeper distance like that. And so I think the further I got into like my shadow and really recognizing truths that like, you know, I'm not beautiful outside of my physicality, like the things that I bring there, that my worth is not based on my production, like having to learn those truths in that shadow work is like, by the time I walked back into like my joy, by the time I walked back into like my celebration, my triumph, my inspiration, I had come such a distance that I was like, we have never walked that far. We have never come that far. And it's just like, wow, like happiness is equally a reflection of like, to be, by the tribulations we go through, we get to celebrate our triumphs even much more, because I've been through that. I've made it through that. So yes, I will celebrate, because you have no idea the things that could have killed me and failed.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I think of that very much. So I use that as that's probably my favorite poem of all time is Lucille Clifton, right? That you almost just quoted. Right? So, but people have often kind of spoken to me about my aggressive optimism. There are many ways that it gets coined. And I am aggressively optimistic, but in the way that that poem ends, right? Like, won't you celebrate with me? By Lucille Clifton, which she says, you know, come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed. And that is kind of the way that it's just like, yep, all of these things have been very hard. All of these things have been whatever they have been, and I see them. So it's not really the same thing as toxic positivity when I think about it. It's because it acknowledges, yes, all of the shadow, all of these hard things, all of these very painful things, etc. And it also acknowledges the fact that I'm here. And quite well, frankly. So,
I think you and I both know that's one of the powers and one of the true iconic things about art that separates it from just like other type of things is that ability to slow down and live in all of that without having to judge it and know that it's like a part of the play or a part of the story or part of like the dance. You know, like if I'm dancing and I fall out of balance, I better learn how to use that. In the same way, if I'm writing and it like a typo, a word pops into my head, like some random idea, I better learn how to use that. In the same way that like challenge or grief or even celebration and joy falls into your lap, what are you gonna do with that? You know, do we get to sit with it? Do we get to like have tea with it? Do we want to throw it against a wall? Do we want to make paper airplanes with it? Do I want to show it my rock collection? Like I get to do so many different things with it.
Well, I think that's one of the things that I love about poetry is that it doesn't necessarily require a narrative, right? It doesn't have to make sense. It doesn't have to be, we don't have to have a story attached to it, right? It can just be a series of questions. It can be a series of experiences, moments, fragments of things that we don't necessarily have to weave in a way that makes sense to anyone. I often say like there are things that I write that I think don't make sense, right? These terrible poems, right? That I think don't make sense. And then I look at them 2 or 3 years later and I realize, oh, this was a letter from me then to me now. I wasn't ready to receive this message then. I wasn't ready to like look at whatever this thing was at the time. And now I'm in a space where I'm like, oh, this was a note from 2014 me to me now. And I was not ready for it until today. Now I see this poem and go like, oh, bars. And see like, oh, this is a thing that I was trying to feel or trying to consider, a question I was trying to ask and didn't quite have the ability to process it all the way. And so it allows me to sort of to not make sense, right? And that's also, I think, really, really delicious and a gift that poetry, you know, we can be really abstract with words, and I get to be in relationship with them in that way.
Because honestly, like the second poem I was going to read it like plays perfectly into this of like things coming later, and especially when you're not expecting. Do you want to say anything else? I was going to ask you if you would read
that. I was going to ask if you would read another poem.
Perfect. So, let's do it. See, everything works.
It does.
This is why I had a feeling. This is my second poem. It's called My Lives. I'm doing fine on my first life. Unfolded and navigated. Saw my wings when the winds came. It took until my second life to just live it. To feel my bones for their value as continents. Learning about guilt and fault lines. How geologic those conversations. The third life was to teach me to let myself live a full life of passion. A non-typical groove. It's okay. Let me achieve this on my fourth life, where my time is my own. My family is the co-pilot instead of back on my ninth generation stomping grounds. On the seventh life, on the ninth life, let it be about my body, and every bone gets its own solo. We dance like we never stopped. On the 10th life, let me focus on my mind and body, a duet between nervous neuron and mindful muscle. On the 11th life, let it be about my mind, body, and spirit, where it's a freestyle in the moment. It's just too much for words. Let the 10th life be about me, at a pace meant for a life walking through canyons. On the 11th life, let it be about someone else, so that this may become theirs, maybe a parent, a child, the 7-Eleven worker singing in the pews, aisle. Let me learn how to give. On the 12th life, let it be about what it wants, and receive everything it never thought to wish for, like the eye of a storm, brewing an ecosystem.
Thank you, Franklin, for this beautiful poem. So I have so many questions for you. That was a beautiful poem. I'm wondering, which life would you say you're on right now? I was trying to capture that in the piece and I couldn't tell.
The dancing one. I forgot which one that was. If I can say anything, I'm in the dancing life right now. I don't even know. I feel like I can jump into any one of these lives. I feel like because I've trusted myself and I've liberated myself so much, at any point in time, I can access my 80-year-old or my 8-year-old or my 18-year-old or my current 28-year-old. Like, they're not inaccessible to me.
Well, writing is a form of time travel, I think. So tell me about, you were talking about the layers of geologic rock, right? And so again, like they're not really separate, right? There are these markers, and I love like considering that visual as a way that lives might be cohesive and yet distinct, right? So how would you say your work with the Museum of Nature and Science informs your poetry?
I think my work is always informed by my science, because that was how I found my art. Like my art and science were never separated. The more I understood ecosystems, the more I understood metaphors, because if I can understand the biology of a river, then I can understand the anatomy of an extended metaphor, you know? I can understand the bends and the weaves, its depth, its speed, the tempo, the rocks in it, you know, and it's so understandable. In the same way that if I'm trying to explain to someone geologic age, you know, I go and I literally show them dirt, right? And what a metaphor dirt is, even though I'm talking about science, you know? And so for me, the two are always informed. I think specifically for this, what really brought me to it was specificity. Now that I'm working at the museum, I'm really focused on that scientific notion of accuracy, on that scientific notion of the mechanics. And so if you tell me you're smiling because you're happy, I need to know the mechanics of your happy. Was it a biscuit that made you happy? Was it the fact that you read a good book that made you happy? You know, your light bulb went off, but you had one on deck, and so that made you happy. I need to know exactly what made you happy, because the scientist in me wants to know, you know, and then the artist in me wants to appreciate. And both of them are always living.
They're not separate. I love that. And I think that for me, I think that the science, the art, and the spirit are all one thing also, right? I can watch video on theoretical physics and go like, oh, right, there's poems because bars all the time. They're all connected to the same sort of thing. And inspiration lives in all of those places. And there are a lot of different ways to navigate the truth and understand it. And it's really like, it's the same process, right? That same sort of scientific discovery, I think, is the same thing that an artist is doing, is trying to get closer and closer to what is true. And so there are just different ways to sort of navigate that. And I love that yours is so clearly inseparate. So thank you very much, Franklin. And I believe I should probably read a poem now, yes?
I'm ready for you. I'm gonna be listening to you like I'm looking for gold.
I feel like the poem that I want to read is it's called How to Make Love. If you want someone to know that you love them, go to the local butcher. Buy the best whole chicken they have, organs and all. Go to the market with the best produce and buy a few onions, yellow enough to make you hungry, a few shallots, maybe 2 hands full, a heavy box of kosher salt. A pound of carrots so orange they sing, a stalk of celery crisp as winter, a quart of heavy cream thick as a cow's shoulder, a bottle of brandy or cognac depending on what you like, a bundle of bay leaves, fresh if you can find them, a pound of butter. You should already have several cloves of garlic on hand at home. We are talking about love after all, but it might be wise to add a few more to the basket if you feel like it's time. Now, we all have our own methods, but I feel like it's best to sing on your way home and while you're preparing the ingredients. I prefer Anita Baker and Donny Hathaway for this part, and of course Stevie Wonder, but do you? Chop the yellow onions while you sing. Crying may also occur. Best to leave the onions in irregular pieces. Let your love know that you chopped them yourself. Cut the carrots into fat coins, then again in half if you feel like it. Wash the celery down to its base, all between the ribs where the dirt likes to hide. I hope I didn't have to tell you to wash everything else, your onions, your carrots, your hands. Now, I like a heavy knife for all this chopping, but work with what you've got. You don't need good knives to love somebody, but it helps. What you do need is a stock pot big enough to hold a whole chicken and all these vegetables plus some water. You should have a cast iron skillet too, but it's all right if you ain't that grown yet. Best to rinse the pot. It probably has some dust or grease on it from sitting on top of the fridge or under the sink or wherever you pull it out from. Now, on low heat, pour a little olive oil in it and let it warm. After about half a song, add your chopped vegetables to the pot and let them spend some time together under a lid. When they start to feel a little soft, stir them with a wooden spoon. I hope you have a wooden spoon. As for the chicken, if you haven't worked with a whole chicken before, the organs are probably inside it. You'll need to reach in between its legs and pull them out. That might sound nasty, and it might even be nasty, but it's got to be done. And if you can't handle a little nasty, you might not be ready to fall in this type of love yet. Now set the organs aside. We'll do something with them in a little while. Don't let the juices spill onto the counter. Put them on a plate or in some type of container. Cover them and put them in the fridge. I'll tell you another time how to make pate. Now, your chicken should be ready for cooking. You washed it, didn't you? We talked about this. Wash everything. Pray, however you pray. I give thanks for all my food, especially if something had to die. I thank my food, the land it grew on, the people who raised it, who slaughtered it or harvested it. You ever think about how many hands and lives are involved on your plate? It's a lot of thank yous. Thank the chicken while you wash its body, while you go all between its legs and pull its organs out. Thank it when you put it in the pot on top of the semi-soft vegetables stirred by a wooden spoon. Let the chicken sit on top of the onions, the carrots, the celery on low heat and under a lid. Let the steam help them get together and fall in proper love for the length of 2 or 3 Nina Simone songs, checking in between. Now, of course, we need to add water. Nothing good can grow without water. Some folks will tell you to use filtered water, which is good if you got it, but we come to the kitchen with clean hands and a pure heart. We make the best out of what we have, and tap water will do just fine. Add enough water for the chicken to be cooked entirely, enough to let it rise to the top. Now you'll want to add a couple of bay leaves or more if you like. Here's where we must listen to our own blood. A half palm of kosher salt, depending on the size of your hands. Let all of this roll into a soft boil. Then bring the heat back down to low and walk away for an hour or so. This is a good time to do laundry, but probably not to read because it's too easy to get lost inside a book and forget to take the chicken out. When the chicken is cooked, and I mean falling off the bone cooked, not a shade of pink nowhere, bring it onto a plate and let it cool. It might fall apart in this process, but don't panic. We're about to take it apart anyway, so go ahead and bring it out in pieces if you got to. Keep the broth on low, very low heat. When the chicken is cool enough for you to touch without cussing, pull the skin off the meat and the meat off the bones. Put the meat aside in a container, then into the fridge, and add the skin and bones back into the pot. We're going to let these bones cook for a long time, all night, so you can go ahead and read now, and if you want to, you can come back to it tomorrow. When you wake up, your whole house should smell like somebody loves you. There might be a layer of gel and fat on top of your broth. You're welcome. Now you'll strain the broth into another pot. With the bones and skin and bay leaves and vegetables boiled lifeless, all looking at each other in the strainer, you have compost that wants to spend time in your soil. We don't believe in wasting anything in the kitchen. Add this mixture to your compost bucket if you got one, or go ahead and start one in an old coffee can. Keep your broth on the stove, bring it back to a low boil, and add some rice. You washed it, right? I know I didn't tell you to buy rice, but you should already have some. If you don't even have rice, I don't think you should be trying to cook love dishes just yet. Let the rice cook itself soft as you like it, and add the chicken from yesterday back into the pot and let it get warm. Now, I know this sounds easy, but if you do all this for your intended and they don't fall in love, you deserve better. And at least now, you know how to cook. Thank you.
That's my mentor. Thank you, friends, for being a simple pedestrian. So I have so much to talk about. This is my note taking, by the way, just to let you know. There's a lot of scribbles, and I try to catch points as we go. So, you know, I was diligent over here.
Oh, look at that.
I told you she's my mentor. It's literally in our practice. So, I mean, for me, for one, like, I always love you because you tuck wisdom lines in. And just because, you know, we're running short on time, some of the things I love is your relationship to time. You didn't give a single time reference in all of that. Everything was a song, a half a song, a Nina Simone song, which we all know can go for like 7 minutes or 30, right? And so like, that's just that type of stuff. One of the ones, like, if you can't handle this nasty, you're not ready for this type of love. You know, it's all right if you ain't grown. I hope I didn't have to tell you. So many things, like, how do you, for you, what is your relationship to giving wisdom in poetry, right? Because you do it so flawlessly. Like, when you receive wisdom for poetry and when you try to tell folks, like, that is just my always question for Suzi is, you know, how do you find these relationships between the simplicity and the profound and just marry them in this like wonderful relationship?
Oh, thank you. I'm not sure. I mean, I think this is part of my investigative process, right? I think this is just sort of how my brain works. I ponder quite a lot. And so in this, like, this is the way that I would tell someone who I love how to make a dish, right? When people ask me for recipes, I can't give you a recipe. I can't tell you how many. When people ask me how to make something, I say, well, don't you speak to your ancestors in the kitchen? I don't let them tell you, right? And this is how mine tell me. And so a lot of this is, you know, sort of a spiritual process in listening. And I've always been a listener. And so I think that's part of it, right? Listening to my own ancestors, to the people I grew up around, to my own neighbors, my community. I read a lot, right? I pray a lot, a lot of those things, right? And I ask a lot of questions, and I think that's where most of my poems come from. So I hope that will inspire y'all to like cook something loving for the people in your life.
Thank you so much. I'm so fed. Metaphor. And with that, I think we'll pass it back to Jessie.
Thank you so much for having us, Jessie. And thank you, Franklin. It's been beautiful reading poems with you tonight.
Thank you. And thank you for letting me go rogue.
Yeah, thank you for going rogue. That was the wisdom from both of you. I think a lot of us are just reeling and so appreciative. And I cannot thank you enough. And making us all get spontaneous in the moment was really a thrill. Really, talk about dancing. Thank you. I appreciate you both more than I could ever say. And I look forward to many more longer conversations between all of us and between the two of you. So thank you so very much. And thank everybody for watching and being a great audience. We encourage you to buy the books of our speakers that are available through Boulder Bookstore within the USA and Full Circle within India. Do follow our handles on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and stay apprised of upcoming sessions. Also, stay tuned to jlflitfest.org/Colorado for the full schedule and information about our speakers. In these unusually difficult times, we have struggled to bring you JLF Colorado without charging a registration fee. If you are able, we appreciate your donating as generously as you can to JLF Colorado to ensure a free, seamless, and continuous flow of knowledge like you've just heard. And once again, we would like to thank all our official partners. We hope you enjoyed this magical conversation, and we'll tune in for our next session, The Black Wave, Kim Gattas in conversation with Navdeep Suri at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 6 p.m. Pacific Time, and 7:30 a.m. India Time. Thank you once again, and now we present a reading by Parvati Nair from the Jaipur Writer Short Series. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you shortly.
It is love. He loved me so much that I died in his arms. I know I loved him, and times he loved me too. But whenever he did, I just died in his arms. His love was a pain I dare not deny. My heart thumps frantic, I cannot defy. My lips quivering to speak my mind. Tightly pressed against his I find. It is his love, to myself I remind. How strange is his love that kills me by day, a diseased passion in which I decay. Loved me so much that I died in his arms. I know I loved him, and times he loved me too. But whenever he did, I died in his arms.
केसरिया पालम अबोली पधारो मारे दे।
I would call the Jaipur Literature Festival a living library, or perhaps even a library of life. Do join us as we share the excitement of ideas and of debate and dialogue of the adventures of science, of the joys of poetry and music, the consolations of philosophy, the sense of literature, and the
so much about the festival in India, the scale of it, the energy of it, and I just love the fact that there is this effort to bring it to other cities in the world.
It's a variety of topics. It's meaningful. I'm just excited. I'm feeling like I've learned a lot to think about, and I appreciate JLF coming here.
Going forward, it would be a very good thing to do for the community to have this event on an annual basis.
I think that when you hear so many different voices and perspectives about the South Asian diaspora and many other issues, you learn that there's a lot of history that you're not taught every day, and I think that that's important to bring in today's world.
I was actually really surprised by the camaraderie I experienced here and the way that people at JLF, both attendees and other panelists, seem to really connect profoundly to literature and care about it.
In 2020, our live version of JLF has been laid to waste because of COVID-19. However, nothing's going to stop us from coming in the way of bringing our writers and speakers to you in Boulder, Colorado, Houston, New York, and Toronto, Canada.
Teamwork Arts, bringing India to the world and the world to India through Indian art and culture for over 30 years. One of Teamwork Arts' signature events, the Z Jaipur Literature Festival, is the world's largest free festival of its kind. With daily interactive sessions, lively debate and dialogue, and international music performances every night, it's no wonder the festival attracts over 500,000 visitors a year. The Jaipur Bookmark, an international B2B event for the publishing industry, happens during the Z Jaipur Literature Festival and sees a confluence of publishers, writers, and literary agents. Teamwork Arts, producers of the Z Jaipur Literature Festival, have taken the flavor of the festival to international shores with vibrant events in the UK, Australia, and the US. Teamwork Arts takes India's artistic diversity to the world with almost 12 festivals of India across continents in a stunning array in over 40 cities. A feast for the senses, these are spectacles of dance, music, cinema, theatre, literature, and so much more. In each of these places, Teamwork Arts' colourful festivals of India are the high points of the annual cultural calendars, be it Confluence in Australia, India by the Bay in Hong Kong, India by the Nile in Egypt, Ion India in Chicago, Shared History in South Africa, India in the Sunshine City in Zimbabwe, Edinburgh Fringe Festival, UTSAVAM in Singapore, Sarang in South Korea, festivals in Abu Dhabi, Shanghai, Sweden. The list is dizzying. The Jazz India circuit is an endeavor by Teamwork Arts to spread the word and sound of jazz across the country. The 2017-18 season, 4 festivals across 3 cities, featuring over 25 stellar artists from India and around the world, including Jojo Mayer and Nerve, drummer-singer Jameson Ross, and Dave Weckel, who collaborated with the talented Mohini Day. The Mahindra Kabira Festival celebrates the spirit, lyric and verse of the 15th century mystic poet Kabir in his birthplace, the historic city of Varanasi. Kabir's poetry is about inclusiveness. Mahindra Kabira brings to music lovers an unforgettable experience of listening to leading exponents of the classical Banaras Gharana and rich folk traditions of music on the legendary banks of the mighty river Ganges, along with sessions on art and literature, specially curated walks with famous local residents and delectable local cuisine. Sacred celebrates the spiritual through music and its ability to heal. International artists collaborate with world music exponents from India amongst the most incredible desert settings on the banks of the Pushkar Lake. Heritage walks, meditation, talks and workshops are part of this weekend experience. Teamwork Arts so promotes and recognizes the best of Indian theatre through the Mahindra Excellence in Theatre Awards. The Meta Week in Delhi is an enthralling showcase of the 10 best nominated plays shortlisted from numerous entries received from across the country and across languages. The Meta Lifetime Achievement Award has been presented to leading lights of India's theatre industry. For the young and the young at heart, the ISHARA International Puppet Theatre Festival brings local and international performances to audiences across several Indian cities. While the Multi-City Kahani Festival features interactive storytelling sessions and workshops championing the power of imagination. Bollywood Love Story, a musical. Our international touring productions such as Bollywood Extravaganza and Flamenco India have sold out shows across Europe, Egypt, Russia and Spain. Expressions International Contemporary Dance Festival showcases Indian and international productions, bringing together several dance genres for Indian audiences. Teamwork Arts, celebrating the arts. For more information, visit www.teamworkarts.com.
I think everywhere I've ever lived, I always looked for the library. They come to the library because they want to be with people.
Corporations are not people in the library. People are people, right? And so being able to come in and participate and learn and control that learning experience is what we offer to the community. And that's a beautiful thing. It can develop into something amazing.
We want them to recognize that they have the agency and the potential to create change and have a voice.
To become what they hope to be, to empower them to realize their aspirations.
No matter who they are, no matter what age they are, no matter what their background or ability is.
We're going to learn together, right?
And you know what? Not just me, because I want to create together, but I think we want to create together.
Give us your knowledge, give us what you do best. Give us your culture, give us good feedback, give us bad feedback, give us any feedback. Let us grow with you. Just come and ask too.
Ask a librarian. We're all here waiting to help you.
To work together, to collaborate, and to come up with a larger, louder voice as a collective.
We are bolder together.
We are bolder. Okay, wait.
Somos bolder juntos.
We are bolder.
Bolder?
Bolder together.
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 We're bolder together. We're bolder together.